Good morning, this is Dwayne, and today we'd like to talk about fattening your chords. Instead of playing just plain chords that occur in most songs, such as the C chord, or the F chord, G chord, or the F chord, or the D chord, or the A chord, or E flat, or whatever, instead of just playing the plain chords, I'd like to talk about ways to fatten those chords, to fatten them up, okay? And one way we can do it is simply by adding color tones. For example, if you're playing the G chord, and if it's possible, if it works out with the melody at all, then you ought to add something like a major seventh and a ninth, like that's a major seventh, and that's a ninth, and that's a major seventh. Or a dominant seventh with a ninth. Or add a sixth to the chord, or a 6/9. Okay? So that's one way, simply to add color tones. If you're playing the C chord, add a sixth or add a seventh. Depends where the melody is, of course. Like if G is the melody, I can add a major seventh there, say, okay? Or a dominant seventh, or a ninth, or a flat ninth. In other words, add a color tone whenever possible. That will go a long ways towards fattening your chords. Another way to do it is to voice in fourths. Instead of, chords are usually voiced in thirds, but instead consider something like this. It involves color tones as well, but like you could voice a C chord like this: E on the bottom, A, and then D. You see, each note is a perfect fourth away from the other. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. By playing a C chord that way, after you play a low C, then you've established that big sound like this. And fourths, that gives a much more contemporary sound. But to do that, you have to play a root of some sort. For example, if it's a C chord, you have to play a low C or a low C and G, or better yet, maybe the whole roll of tenths like that. Another thing about fourths is you can go up by half steps or down by half steps and get a pretty good sound. And I'm moving up by a half step, and that makes a nice contemporary sound. Okay, another thing you can do is to use crunches. Crunches are where you slide down on a chord. In other words, instead of just playing it like that, say we're playing that chord, instead of playing it like that, just take it from the top down. Crunching it from the top down. It's just the opposite. Usually we have an arpeggio going up like that. In fact, that's what a run would be made out of, an arpeggiated run, wouldn't it? But we're just crunching it down like that from the top. Now you don't want to overuse that, but that's one way you can make your chords fatter. Another thing you can do is use blue notes. Instead of just playing all the notes as it is, you can slide off the black keys like this. In fact, I slid off B. Let me do it slow so you can hear it. B flat to B. See, that gives a little impetus to the sound, doesn't it? In fact, I can slide off 2 black keys here. So you can use blue notes to fatten your chords. Another thing you can do is you can use polytonality. Let's say you're playing a song like this. Hear that? The chord is F, but I'm playing the G chord over it. And that immediately, of course, makes a fatter chord, doesn't it? You have to resolve it and get off the polytonality back to the tonality. Okay. Another thing you can use tremolos like I just did. I don't remember where I started it, but I was on this chord and I went like this. And that fattens your chord. Often you can use a tremolo fired run. In other words, you take that tremolo and you fire out of it up an octave or two. crunches. Another thing you can do is you can voice it with, you can use two hands voicing and use all of that. In other words, use color tones, use blue tones, blue notes. You can play in octaves like that with sliding off the open fifth like this. Get a big sound like that. You get a fatter sound. Okay? So those are just a few ways. We've considered maybe 6 or 7 ways to make your chords fatter. So I encourage you to look into those. Now, my purpose here was not to. My purpose here was actually make you hungry, because you can't possibly learn all that in one setting. But get started and look into adding color tones, and then look into adding blue notes, and then look into voicing and fourths and so on. It's all doable, it's all possible. So if you like the sound, get to it. Start fattening your chords. Thanks. See you next time. Bye-bye for now.